afternoon is much more of a ecosystem view, and we've got an amazing agenda today. We've got a series of fireside chats as well as panels, but covering a lot of what we talked about in the morning, all the way from Middle India digitization, consumer behavior change, as well as whatever is happening in the startup ecosystem in India. So we're going to kick off for the next several hours with probably some of the best startup founder and investor minds in the business. We're going to kick off with Shradha from Your Story, whom I don't think there's anybody here who doesn't know, along with Varun Dua, who's a 3-time founder from Acko. We'll move on to India's digital rails with Pramod Verma and Bala Parthasarathi. We've got 3 amazing companies, Delivery, Credit B, as well as Unifor, with their founders talking about profitable growth, which I know is a source of great interest for many of the LPs in the audience. We'll move on from there into how does one design for Middle India users? If there is a market of 500 million users, how do you really understand how they behave, how they consume, how you design your products? We'll move over to a SaaS panel, and we actually have swapped, we've had to swap VSS from Paytm with Shashank from Razorpay, but I think it's it's probably going to be a pretty good ending to the event, and Shradha is going to run that as well. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to invite Shradha and Varun to the stage. Shradha, as you know, is the founder and CEO of Your Story. Your Story has been almost a catalyst. She's a dear friend of ours. She's a friend of the firm. She's a personal friend. And what Your Story has done for the startup ecosystem is nothing short of amazing. Varun is a 3-time unicorn founder in India. He is almost the king of insurance. He's gone through 3 startups in the insurance space, and I'm just going to call them over and we kick off the day with them. Thank you.
So first and foremost, I have to say that Bala is quite nervous because if he's praising as a VC, as an investor, so many nice words he had to say, that means he's nervous and he needs to settle in. And congratulations to Arkam Ventures. As someone in the ecosystem, I feel very proud of the work Rahul, Bala, you guys are doing, because I always say this, and today also I'm going to say this, is that I am from Bihar, or abhi bhi, there is a large part of India which is very ignored by the venture ecosystem, by the capital ecosystem, and I'm very proud that you guys are looking at Bharat, and I hope you guys are going to Bihar, Eastern UP, and we will have a discussion on that with all of you, but congratulations, and it's good to be here, and it's good to be part of Arkam Ventures event. And now with this, Varun, we just got to know that we both went to same college, same post-graduation place, Micah, though he's gone on to build a unicorn and I'm a babycorn. But we will have a very good discussion today, Varun. And he runs a fintech which has products. It's not just a distribution platform, all the successes, and we'll go to that. But the first and foremost question that I want to ask him is a marketing. You did commerce and and then marketing. A marketing guy is running today such a successful fintech venture. So tell us your story.
Okay. Firstly, thank you for having me here. Yes, I am from a completely, relatively an odd background to be doing what I'm doing. Like you rightly said, I have a commerce degree and then an advertising, some marketing degree, and I landed up in insurance and now running a balance sheet and so-called a technology venture. How it happened is a fairly long story. I can probably spend 2 minutes on so basically clueless to begin with. Wanted to avoid all hard work that could be possible. So engineering is too complicated. CA is going to take too long. So it was just like almost an elimination of, let's see what to do. I don't know. One of those things. Very lazy elimination thought process. I think I got my first job. I don't think I was ever interested in marketing, so to speak. But that's the school I got an admission in. I worked in advertising for barely 6 months. I said, this is not my cup of tea. Coincidentally, the insurance sector was coming up that time, and I don't know how many of the people in the audience would know that only in 2001 was the insurance sector in India privatized. Before that, they were only state-run, the New Indias and the LICs. So it was very early, and somebody got hold of me, offered me a job. This was in Tata AIG, the AIG and Tata Group joint venture. And I just landed up this, this is better than advertising, let's see what happens. In 2 years, I'm going to go to the US, I'm going to study further or figure something out. And that was like a stopgap situation. But it turned out to be a very good stint. I learned a lot. I think nobody knew what was happening in insurance at that time. I still don't think anybody does beyond a point. But essentially, there were a lot of people from banking and telecom, and I got to punch a lot above my pay grade, even as a junior employee or an entry-level employee, because practically everybody was trying to figure out what this sector is, at that point in time. Post that, I had a small stint with Templeton in the mutual fund business, and then I was supremely fascinated with what Flipkart, by then 2007, 8, 9 had started to happen, and I was seeing this wave of these companies coming up very early, and I was like, I'm in the wrong sector, what am I doing with my life? What is this boring financial services? I need to be in the internet economy. That was just like a very loose, understanding of what I wanted to do. So I took a little bit of a break to decide what I wanted to do. I had no ambition of becoming a founder, an entrepreneur, or setting up a business. My 2 jobs that I tried to get were ClearTrip and eBay, because those were the only 2 internet companies in Bombay at that time. And your thinking process is so narrow that I didn't even want to move out of Bombay. Like, this is all. These are the 2 companies I'm going to try and get a job in. Variety of reasons, both of them did not happen. And I started figuring out what I want to do with my life. It was just a little bit of break. I knew insurance companies struggled with technology. I'd seen that in my early journey there. So I started selling software to insurance companies, along with a co-founder I met that time who was from IIT Bombay. That didn't scale, that didn't work at the pace and scale that I imagined it would. So I started selling products to consumers through a second startup called CoverFox, which was maybe I can put it as a Policy Bazaar competitor. During that phase, it dawned upon me that really the only way to solve this space, it's a long conversation, is really to manufacture the product, own the product, and really not be the thin layer distribution. So while Bala introduced me as 3-time entrepreneur, I would call it, I'm actually trying to do the same thing for over a decade. It's just that the entities have had to change to really get to the right place. That's been the broad journey.
I'm very tempted to ask you a very controversial question.
Sure.
So you said that your second venture, which is a continuum, first, second, and the third one, it was on similar lines as Policy Bazaar.
Yes.
And which is what most fintech companies do, which is to create and build distribution of financial products. But you chose a very different path, and we were just discussing, I can't think of any other startup in the last 10 years of tracking which is doing what you do and what Acko does.
Yeah.
How come you chose that, and why didn't you find the CoverFox model interesting?
Okay, so so I'll answer also controversially in some sense. See, I think there's a lot of buzzwords that I feel the entire community kind of gets carried away with, which is fintech, insurtech. If you really distill it down, I personally don't think it really means anything, these words. And when you talk about fintech or financial services in general, really there are three big buckets, right? There's credit, there's wealth and savings, and there's insurance. I'm not going into core banking for a second, but these are the 3 broad areas people operate in. Credit, right now, pretty much anybody who has a startup in India is doing credit of some sort or the other. Then you have your wealth and savings, and some people are doing insurance. And everywhere there's a different consumer motivation and leads to very different business models. I'll just maybe give you an example, and it'll correlate to your question, why the distribution thing in insurance, to me at least, was not working. So when it's credit, let's say I'm banking with HDFC Bank for 20 years, but if Navi or somebody else gives me a cheap loan, I have no care I have no affiliation with HDFC Bank. If they charge me a little higher, I'm okay. You know, I don't want to take with them. So cost of capital, brand loyalty, these are all very different things. There's no loyalty in credit. Like, I need a cheap loan, I need a cheap loan. You know, that's about it. Essentially, there are other things kind of get important, whether you have distribution might, your cost of capital, your collection capability, lots of things are different, right? From a consumer standpoint, if I look at it from a consumer standpoint, the consumer doesn't care where he gets his credit from, as long as it's cheap and it's quick. Consumer doesn't care whether you last or no. If you go bust as a lender, very happy, no problem, you know, essentially. When you look at wealth and savings, I don't think any through your life stage, as a customer would typically want to buy, you know, have FD, gold, mutual fund, stocks, crypto, whatever it is. I do not think a single manufacturer of all sorts of investments products can exist. So there's value in packaging and presenting you what options you need to have, at what age, what time you need to optimize them to hit your financial goals. This could be a financial physical advisor, this could be a digital advisor, but there is value in bringing distribution and packaging it and giving it to you to ensure that you're able to optimize your savings. Now let's take insurance. How many times in my life will I buy life insurance? Once, 1.5. How many times in my life will I buy health insurance? Same, 1.5. How many times will I buy car insurance? Maybe once a year. By and large, after that, if I even get reasonably comfortable with my car insurance provider, I'll just like kind of randomly continue, right? Unless the insurer pisses me off for some reason. So I need one reliable product. I'm not I'm not checking NAV, I'm not saying that where should I shift my, from this fund to that fund. I'm not doing any optimization. I need one reliable product for my lifetime. And when this customer is buying that one reliable product, he's actually talking to an agent, he's talking to a Policy Bazaar or Policy Bazaar equivalent, he's doing all the research that he wants. So the game that I need to play, essentially, is to be that one reliable product. I don't think there's any value in giving these 20 options. Primarily now coming specifically, marketplaces or distribution works. Like, let's take the CoverFox Policy Bazaar example, and the controversial part is, to me, essentially it's a vertical marketplace. So controversial thing to say, I think Yashish Dahiya of Policy Bazaar has really taught Indians to buy insurance online. But I'll still make this comment, I have high regards for him. That vertical e-commerce, it is essentially vertical e-commerce, right? You're building a marketplace for insurance. Marketplaces survive on two core tenets. One is there is diversity in supply. Many suppliers, you're aggregating that supply and you're making choices convenient for customers. And second is you get habituated to going to a particular marketplace for your regular needs. So you could be habituated with Amazon or Flipkart or Swiggy or Zomato or Uber or whatever. There's habit, right? Like, I keep saying this, my brother used to live in Delhi, he used to be on Zomato, I used to be on Swiggy. No real reason, right? It's habit that you're on that particular platform. Now let's take insurance. And let's take the CoverFox or Policy Bazaar, placeholder names. There are only 20 suppliers on the marketplace, which are 20-odd insurance companies. Out of that, 10 brands nobody wants to buy because customers have not heard of these brands. And you want reliability. So you're really aggregating 8-10 suppliers. Those 8-10 suppliers are also big bullies because these are the Tatas and the ICICIs, of the world. So the marketplace, it doesn't have the power, the supplier has the power, because the big bully can tell you that I'm going to delist off your platform. Imagine an insurance marketplace which doesn't have Tata, Bajaj, HDFC. It's just like doesn't survive. So they can bully you. Second, because these are once in a lifetime buys, life and health, and once in a year buys, there's no habit formation, there's no frequency, there's no Swiggy, Zomato behavior. I'm talking to an agent, there's no habit formation, there is no supply diversity. So the marketplace core tenets to me start becoming very weak. And therefore, it gets into a little bit of a treadmill situation, according to me. And that's why my choice was to go and manufacture the product. And therefore, when you look at it sector by sector also, globally also in insurance, most of the market cap is really created by the manufacturer. So I think this dawned upon me over a long period of time. Right now, I'm able to distill it. But I think this was a 6-7 year journey to even understand that this was the way to look at it.
I think this is a very good learning for all of us. But that brings to the question that the space now that you are in, and you built a very fantastic not only, I would say, a startup, I don't know, a company, you've raised more than $480 million, and in some parts of your business you're profitable, and in 2 years you will be completely Atmanirbhar, and which is very important for startups these days. No, so, but Acko has a brand today and brand recollection. And I somehow feel that in the startup ecosystem in the last 10, 12 years, if we have to look in the Indian startup ecosystem space, we've not seen a very consistent, solid, strong brand, which you've built. Take us through that.
Yeah.
What is your point of view on this space? On the
I think if you have a
companies?
consumer business in India, and again, I'll say this, is that I would personally rate the startup ecosystem, if I can say this, very poor on actually brand building, like if I can be honest. This is my assessment. Actually, really, the only brand that has been built in the startup ecosystem meaningfully and built well was probably Flipkart. We all remember those ads with, those kids starting to, it was really well done, and the brand can continue. And I would also like to say that over a period of time, they also kind of lost their way and became a little more promotional in their approach to advertising, which is discounts and sales and so on and so forth, versus really building the brand. And this is an art which I think is getting lost over a period of time, and more so in the startup ecosystem, because we believe we are the cat's whiskers, and we know the math, and we know which channel will work, and which click to optimize, and where to get the traffic from. All of that is critical. I'm not saying that all of that is not critical, but really customers do not build long-term associations if you're so tactical and promotional in your approach. One of the reasons that we've hopefully looked at it differently. I would like to call out that probably Acko is one of the most consistent advertisers, not only in the insurance sector, but also in the startup ecosystem. And we've looked at things from a 3, 5, 10-year horizon. Brands need to evolve over a period of time. Most of us as new age companies start very slapstick, trying to get the consumer's attention, put humor in our ads. But there's no Vodafone, there's no Fevicol, there's none of these, or even Asian, Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai. When you look at some of these things are things that have stuck over years. I don't think we as an ecosystem have done justice to it in a meaningful way, where these brands really mean something to us. These brands are new age apps with some promotion that happened on IPL, and then whatever, something happened, and customers don't stick with it. So I think brand building as an art is kind of getting lost, and I do think, therefore, we get onto a recurring. So most startups in India have really looked at brand building as, I have, and I'm going to say this controversially, I have access to capital. I have recently had a large funding round, and therefore I'm going to spend on IPL.
It's
that's
very good.
essentially what it's roughly comes down to.
So one thing, because there will be a lot of Series A, B founders and first round raised capital founders. What you're also alluding to is that you don't necessarily need a lot of capital to build brands.
Partly, you need some amount of capital, but you essentially need to sacrifice some, if I can put it this way, you need to sacrifice some short-term growth to build the brand, because it's not going to give you the same immediate ROI. Like one of the metrics in our company that we calculated is how much money goes to Google. And that has to come down significantly quarter on quarter, because it's just only Google wins, like essentially, or only Meta wins. Like, so there's just no way you can build out a long-lasting. You can build out long-lasting economics also if you're really so reliant on these gatekeepers in some sense. So you have to sacrifice some short-term growth. The way we've looked at it, or we ended up looking at it over a period of time, is, okay, let me build the brand in Bangalore. Brand building doesn't necessarily mean I have to be on television or on IPL or whatever. It can happen in various different ways. It can happen with a 10 crore budget. It can happen with a 5 crore budget. It doesn't need 150 crores. But yes, you'll be targeting a small audience. The difference is I am building my brand with a certain cohort of customers and trying to mean something to them versus I have some money now and let me put it on a broad-based television campaign. These are very different different ways of looking at it. So if I am a Series A company or a younger company with a lesser access to capital today, if it were left to me, I would still build a brand for a much smaller cohort, much smaller cohort rather than, but I would invest in why does the brand mean something to you over a period of time versus not. And consistency really matters. You can't build brand at a campaign to campaign level. If you're there with a certain cohort of customers, you have to be there consistently. You can't measure your ROI on that spend on a monthly basis. It just doesn't work. So you have to have some gumption, some faith, some courage to say, I'm going to not optimize for the additional X dollars of revenue, which I could by paying Google or Meta or doing some small thing, but I'm going to put it to, so there's a little bit of art, a little bit of science, but yeah, I would really urge, it has worked well for us. It has been a strong conviction that the company has had. So depending on what the capital availability is, if at least you're a consumer startup, I would argue you need to really focus on it. Otherwise, the economics are difficult to sustain.
So how do you measure this in Acko? Like this investment in brand building? Is there
very
some,
old traditional metrics, right? There were metrics that I don't know how many of us in the startup ecosystem now do. You have top of mind awareness, spontaneous recall, direct traffic, is my organic traffic. There are enough leading indicators so today in the top 10, 15 cities, if you were to go and ask a car owner, for example, on the road, which are the top 3 insurance companies for your car, Acko will come up, unaided. You don't have to tell them, do you know Acko, do you know, the unaided will come up. That's one thing to measure, we continuously measure this. Second way we measure whether there's impact is that Google SOV, right? So in every category, there are searches that happen, which are branded and unbranded searches. So people may be looking for best car insurance, cheap car insurance, or ICICI car insurance. So branded plus unbranded, when you look at it, is the total search, universe for that category. Now your share as Acko, how many are looking for Acko car insurance? Is the share going up? There are enough leading indicators to tell you which, these are 2, 3, sort of basic examples, Stoma, Spont, Google SOV. These are areas to measure to understand whether your brand has started to work or not work.
I have one India question, macro India question is that, and pandemic showed this very clearly, is that most of us, and sometimes you feel that, oh, people are literate, earning certain sort of an income, they will have insurance. But what was very surprising is what I learned is a lot of us don't have insurance. Yeah. And it's not that, oh, you are of a certain income or below certain income, to nahi hoga. Most people don't have it.
Yeah.
What do you think that we can do as a country to change this?
Very tough question. I don't have an answer. I think part of it is driven culturally. I think we are a little more risk-prone, risk-friendly, if I can call it that. Ram bharose hai, thoda chalta hai, you just see the number of people in Bangalore driving on the opposite side of the road. It's just like, okay, whatever works, right? So you're just comfortable, maybe comfortable with risk, or until it hits home, you don't want to, don't want to prepare. Second, I also think that there's been some disservice, and again, a controversial thing to say a little bit, that how insurance grew in India, it just kind of changed the perception, right? Like all of us remember, at least some of the guys who are, I'm hoping 35 plus guys, that whenever we got into our first jobs, 35, 40, that age bracket, or definitely people older than that, our parents told us, LIC le lo, that LIC became like a way to save for the future versus really protect my health in a COVID scenario or untimely demise, or there's no protection worldview. It was always a buy this for some return 20 years down the line. So one of the things, and that LIC has gotten so deep wired into our ethos as a country, is like any insurance which doesn't give you any money back. It's like, why am I putting my money in this? Like it's not giving me anything back. So it's become a little difficult, a variety of reasons. I do believe for the top 200 million people is changing. COVID helped. weird thing to say, but yeah, it did help in terms of demand really going up, a lot of younger people coming. I think we've seen only and only proactive buyers. I would still, looking at when we've done some voice of customer sort of situations, proactive buyers are still about 30% only in health and life. Auto is mandatory, the government forces you to buy it or the cops force you to buy it. But proactive buyers, and let me differentiate between proactive and non-proactive. Non-proactive are where something in the family has already gone wrong. That's when it strikes you. My parents are sick, I don't have insurance, okay, let me at least get it for myself now. You know, I can't get it for them anymore, or what, but something has to go wrong for that trigger in family, neighborhood, whatever, extended family, something has to go wrong for that trigger to happen. Proactive planning is still maybe 20-30% of the customers.
Yeah. Do you have 80 to 100 million customers?
Yes, we have about, yeah, we have about 80 to 100 million customers. I would call some of them have high affinity, some of them have low affinity with us. We do lots of small products also, like travel insurance, gadget insurance. So we do everything that a family would need. Auto, health, life, travel, gadgets, credit link. Sometimes if you're taking a loan, your lender wants you to take insurance to cover the loan. So we do everything that progressively we've built out each line of business, which an Indian family would need. So across all these product sets, it's about 70, 80 million. A lot of them are these small products like travel, gadgets, and so on and so forth. The long-term products that people buy, which are eventually auto, health, and life, they are about 3-4 million customers. But I love the business because people pay you for 20 years. You get them through the door once, and then they continuously pay you for very, very long.
Yeah, but Varun, I have to say on behalf of everyone and all of us who are Indians and participating in the India growth stories, that the space that you are in to build a credible, trustworthy brands, because you only said that the bullies are there, like the big daddies are there, right? And just to come in 10 years, building that in this category is not easy. And I would say while we are listening to him, let's give a big round of applause because he's done it and Acko has done it. And Acko is here from Bangalore, here in India. And that brings me to the question. You know, I was in Mumbai recently and just went to buy some gift. So, kisi government person se I was talking and we were talking about the Paytm thing and all that. And this guy says, Madam, ye chal raha hai na, Paytm chalega, mera paisa safe hai na. And I was just thinking that it has created so much of a question. And a lot of people keep asking, I don't know to most of you, but to me, I get this asked, oh, what is happening in Indian startup ecosystem? It's only valuation and all of you are, companies are overpriced, they're not building long-term impact and all that. I think it's a very, very biased view.
Sure.
But last 1 year has also been very difficult in many, many ways. I'm asking you this question because you're also building a credible brand. I was telling you outside that you're not one of the very talked about guys also. You've built it properly, you know, and we have to call that out. What do you have to say? What if the brand builder in you, if we had to do something right for the startup ecosystem, what is it that we can do right now?
Yeah, I think there are many layers to this. I think like for whatever Paytm had to go through over the last maybe couple of months, there are good things and bad things. The good things are like, while regulatory governance, we can all as an ecosystem now point fingers at it. My personal opinion on this is that Shradha Sharma or Paytm ended up really introducing us to digital payments in some sense, right? So that credit, it's due where it's due. Having said that, does it take away the fact that there could have been, you know, so anybody operating in the financial services ecosystem, payment, insurance, lending or whatever, I do believe we get sometimes, and I'm not specifically talking about Paytm here, and I'll say this candidly, we end up getting a lot of wrong advice from investors and lawyers. And I'm being, you know, candid about it.
Investor event.
Because everybody wants to find a faster way to scale, a faster way for that capital to get returned, or not to get into the regulator's watch. I know I'm making some broad generalizations. I'm not saying everybody like that or every situation is like that. But I would say over the last 5-6 years, maybe not over the last 2 years, but 5 years before that, I have been privy in my own company to situations where the advice that I have received or opinions that I've received from consultants and lawyers have been preposterous. I'm like, what are you saying? You're going to give me this opinion and 5 years later you are gone, and like, what do I do with that opinion, right? Because the regulator is not listening to me anymore. So at least one thing, coincidentally, and more so I'm glad that we ended up doing it, we didn't take any shortcuts with anything. We had to apply for a full-blown license. The regulator took 18 months, 20 months. We had to keep begging, explaining our credibility, why we should be given a full-blown license. The same license that an ICICI has, a Tata has, or a Bajaj has, they were not accepted. They did not allow us to apply for 1 year. Allow us to apply, forget not processing my application. Said, up सोचिए भी मत, मतलब आइए भी मत, मतलब like it was pretty much, at that level. But we had to continuously sort of build our bridges to get there. Now we sit in a comfortable space because there's no regulatory gray zone in which we operate in. So I do believe anybody who's in the fintech/financial services world, and I don't think it's new advice now, it's the flavor of the season, that don't be in the gray zone. There's always a loophole. Just because there's been poor drafting doesn't mean the regulator doesn't understand. We are trying to find gaps in drafting and all these opinions are like, okay, somebody's written some English in a certain way, so I could interpret it a certain way. You're pretty much very clear what the regulator wants. The spirit is clear. So why take a chance? If you're really trying to build a long-lasting enterprise, you should sleep peacefully and focus on the customer versus trying to continuously solve your existential crisis as to who you are. Are you a distributor? Are you a manufacturer? Can you do this? Can't you do that? It's too much chaos. So I do believe that we've been a little impatient as an ecosystem to build out categories which need regulatory oversight, or globally we require, have seen regulatory. And it's not just India. By the way, I should also add on a separate note, it's not an India issue. Everything from FTX to Theranos and like everything's happened everywhere, so we may all talk about Paytm or Byju's or whatever, but shit has gone down the, drain like pretty much in every part of the globe. So I don't also think that we should single our ecosystem out. Having said that, can there be better governance, better regulatory engagement, and a little more patience to do the right thing? I think the answer is yes, but that's why I said it's layered. It's not like we are all bad or we are all good or the regulator here has too much overreach. I don't think any of that is true. There's like a bit of everything that needs to get solved, and it's not an India problem. I've seen, at least all of us have read stories across the globe.
And should we take questions from the audience?
Yeah, maybe we can do that.
Yes, if you have any questions for Varun.
Hi.
Speaking about your journey as well. That's really motivating. My name is Sarthak. I'm the co-founder of Mitigator. We are a smart cyber insurance intermediary at this point of time. Looking forward to become a liability insurer in India in the years to come as well. So talking about closer to my business, what do you feel about the future in general for cyber liability insurance, both from the perspective of an individual as well as the corporate?
I think it's an exciting space. I can give you the current. I'm not quite sure on the retail end consumer buying cybersecurity or fraud insurance or whatever it is. I haven't seen that use case scale up, at least across the globe. But enterprise cybersecurity insurance, I think, is an awesome place to be. By the way, like saying, I've heard about you guys, and I think you guys are doing something exciting. I'll tell you why it's according to me, why it's such an exciting space. Of course, everybody knows about ransomware and DOS attacks and all of these pieces. Essentially, the underwriter or the insurance company has to underwrite that risk of protecting you from a cyber incident. Right. Does not understand that risk at all. If you ask Acko, I don't think I can today underwrite a policy for any enterprise and fully estimate their cyber risk. And I can also tell you that today demand for cyber risk insurance products is outstripping the supply. Right. Because people want it, enterprises want it, but nobody wants to put up their balance sheet for it because I just don't understand the nature of the risk. There are capacity issues for some people who may be familiar with insurance. Capacity in the sense that you need securitization because these could be large value claims, or large value ransomware situations, you need a big balance sheet to support it. And unfortunately in India, the quality of risk assessment is relatively poor. So the securitization change or the large reinsurers are also not willing to extend their balance sheet because nobody knows how that risk is going to play out. So I believe that the future is bright on this front. Anywhere where demand is outstripping the supply is a great place to be. But it will also have a lot of it'll need a lot of balance sheet support. So I don't know how you're thinking about that separating the technology from the balance sheet. I think would be critical. But yeah, overall, bunch of nuances there. I don't know. I'm sure you're aware. Ransomware today is an industry. I don't know. It's an interesting anecdote to share. If you are attacked and they ask you for a ransom, they actually have a customer service department that after you pay for the ransom, your CTO will be guided to the customer service and they will actually now tell you how to unlock your own applications. So it's very professional. So you're dealing with and what AI does to it and all of it. Like it's a very dynamic space. So great place to be, but I think yeah, all of us will have to learn and evolve.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Varun.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Varun. And, I again have to say before we end two things. One is that, all of us are very proud of what you've done and what you've built with Acko. And we hope you go on to become Decacorn and all those corn. But more importantly, a solid, consistent, real brand which is impacting so many people. Not an easy space. You've done it and hats off to you. Second is, today's conversation, everyone will agree with me. I thought it was a very unfiltered conversation and you spoke from your heart. So thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much.